Hello, Steve White, TrekBoy89 for SteveHearts89. I've tried to make this video a few times and it keeps getting too complicated and too long. Very simply. There is an argument against Star Trek fans, and Star Trek Discovery fans bring it up regularly. There was an article called New Star Trek Crew Flies into Trouble from the Trekkies, which was written back in the day. It's OG fake news, it never happened. There was a small group of Star Trek fans who were determined to petition Paramount to create a new Star Trek show with the original cast. The original cast were making movies. They couldn't afford to have them back for a TV series. Once they went into the movies and that sort of price range for their fees, there was no way they were ever going to do a Star Trek series. But there was a appetite for it, which was obvious, which is why Next Generation was created with new cast and new characters and a new universe and everything. Well, not a new universe, but a new time period. And there was no fan backlash. There was no resistance. I was there. Everyone loved it. People were like, "Oh, new Star Trek." They couldn't wait for it. It came out. Everyone loved it. People used to like. I used to go to my brother's place and watch it with him and his girlfriend. I mean, everyone loved Star Trek. And then Deep Space Nine came out, and there was a little bit of, how are they going to do that on a space station? And then everyone loved it. They watched it. Everyone loved it. There was no issue. No one cared there was a black commander. No one had any issue with it. Then Voyager came out, and they say that people had problems with a female captain. It never happened. Everyone watched it. Everyone loved it. No one had any issues. The only issue people had was some people couldn't get access to it because it was on UPN and not syndicated, and UPN was a small network, so a lot of people actually couldn't see it. And no fan had any issue with a new Star Trek show until we got to Discovery, and that's mostly because the prequel Star Wars films, or Episode 1, had burned fans so badly they were a bit cautious. And when they found out they were doing a prequel for Star Trek, people were like, "Oh no, how's that going to work? How can Star Trek shouldn't be going backwards, it should go forwards." Up until then, the universe had gone forward, with continuity basically, and this was the first time they'd gone backwards. And had they gone back to the original series, people might have been okay with it, but because they were going before that, some people were critical of that as a choice, as a creative choice. And then they watched it, and it was great. They fudged a lot of stuff. They had phasers and transporters and things sooner than they should have. So the things we thought we'd have to do without because it was a prequel, they just put in anyway. So it was all good. No one had a problem. Everyone loved the show. By the third season, everyone was into it. And when it was being cancelled in the fourth season, people were protesting. People were not happy. It was not cancelled because it was unsuccessful. It was on the small UPN network and it was getting decent ratings. It was ended because when CBS got Star Trek in the split between Paramount and Viacom, it just messed up all the contracts and the licensing and the money they used to get. They couldn't get any more for things, and Les Moonves hated it, and he was quite happy to cancel it. It was expensive, he didn't think it was profitable enough, and he wasn't seeing the merchandising anymore because UPN wasn't connected to the show anymore because it was now a CBS show. So that's just what happened. And again, when the movies came out, there was some trepidation because they were doing a reboot. But then, we understood that it was a new timeline. We didn't realise it was a new universe. They actually fooled us into thinking it was the original series up until the Kelvin, incident, and then the timeline was changed from that point, and then it was an alternate timeline in the original series canon universe. It's actually its own universe. Which is why they had to call it the Prime Universe, because they had to distinguish it because of licensing. So they did fool us on that. They fooled Leonard Nimoy into being in the film as an alternative Spock when he thought he was playing the OG Spock. But, we didn't realise that at the time. But everyone loved it once they saw it. They got it was its own thing, and that was okay. It didn't affect anything else, so no one cared. And it was enough Star Trek that we could enjoy it, but it was different enough that it brought in new people, but still similar enough that there was a crossover and it sort of got them interested in Star Trek. So it was a good thing. And at the end it said, we're going to boldly go. So everyone was fine with that. And then, unfortunately, when Into Darkness came, they boldly went backwards, and yeah, we're not going to go there. That's part of the reason why my last video was like 16 minutes. But yeah, so I just really wanted to say this. I wanted to have this in a video because I haven't seen anyone say this, because it's sort of an old story and everyone knows about it. But that's the thing. If you're a real Star Trek fan, if you're an OG Star Trek fan, you've been watching the show since the original series or Next Gen, you know this isn't true. You were there. You lived through it. But these people, these Drekkies, these Discovery fans, they keep pulling up this article and accusing Star Trek fans of being dinosaurs, like down in the basement, like their parents, just hating on new Star Trek just for the sake of it, because they can't actually defend the new show. The original Star Trek was a utopian science fiction show. It was intelligent. It had a niche audience. It didn't appeal to the general audience. It didn't appeal to the general science fiction audience necessarily, or the Star Wars audience. It was separate, but it was successful, and the fans who did love it bought a lot of merchandise. And when they made the new Star Trek, they wanted to make it appeal to the general audience, the general science fiction audience. They thought it would get a bigger audience that way. By taking out everything that made it uniquely Star Trek and making it generic, they thought they'd get a wider audience, when they just, alienated their Star Trek fans because they no longer had Star Trek, because what made it unique and different and special and worth watching and repeat watching and supporting with merchandise was gone. So I'm just tired of Star Trek Discovery fans, or Discovery fans, because it's not Star Trek, trying to smear Star Trek fans as a whole with this myth, this old OG fake news, because they can't actually defend the new show. The new show is a dystopian science fantasy mess. If you try and look at the stories and the timeline, there are problems with the writing. These are quantifiable. It's not it's not an opinion. You may like it or dislike it. There are people that like it, that's fine. But you can't say it's Star Trek, and you can't say it doesn't have its flaws, because it does. And these fans can't handle that. Like, even I'm a nobody. I don't get a lot of views or comments, but I still have people coming to my channel and yelling at me because, how dare you not like my Star Trek? You're just trying to ruin it for us. Why can't you handle everyone liking Star Trek? You just don't want... So, just in conclusion, it's a myth. It's OG fake news. There is no reality where Star Trek fans hate every new Star Trek show and rally against it just for the sake of it. That's just something the Discovery fans are using to discredit Star Trek fans, because they can't defend the show, because these are real criticisms. Star Trek Discovery is a dystopian science fantasy show. It is not the same as Star Trek. Star Trek was a utopian science fiction show with a humanistic approach to politics, as opposed to the new show, which has a specific agenda-driven, platform-driven. They see it as a platform. It's just not the same thing, and that's why Star Trek fans, are opposed to it and have issues with it, not because of something that's ingrained in them, but because something's wrong with the show. And these are real criticisms, they are valid, and Star Trek Discovery fans are just using these old OG fake news myths to try and discredit real fans, because they can't defend the show, because what we're saying is true. So I just wanted to say that. I just wanted that to be out there. I wanted someone to have a video saying this, because no one else is saying it. So yeah, I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think. I just want people to stop using this old myth, because it never happened. I was there, you weren't. It never happened. It's just that simple. Thanks. Bye.